Hello, and welcome back to Full Time. On Monday, 2026 NWSL expansion team, the Denver Summit, made headlines around the world by announcing the signing of US Women's National Team captain Lindsay Heaps. Heaps is going to join the club on a 3.5-year contract starting in July 2026. That'll be after she completes the rest of her season over in Europe with OL Lyonnais and after her contract expires on the 30th of June 2026. So, why has Lindsay Heaps made the leap to come back to the NWSL and sign with the Denver Summit? On today's podcast, we're going to be getting into all that with Lindsay Heaps herself, who sat down with the Athletics' Melanie and Anzidei to talk all about this blockbuster signing. And after that interview, I'll be catching up with Melanie to talk more about the transfer, what it means for the Summit, what it means for Heaps, the US Women's National Team, and the NWSL. And the transfer news doesn't stop there. Last week, Angel City made headlines of their own by transferring in Emily Sams from the Orlando Pride for $650,000. That's a record transfer fee for a defender between two NWSL teams. Sams was one of 5 signings that Angel City made last week, and we've got a conversation coming up with Tamerra Griffin and Angel City sporting director Mark Parsons to get into all of that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Full Time.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. First, congrats on, a big move for you. I'm sure you're really excited for it. Can you just talk me through what was it about this offer from Denver Summit that kind of inspired you or made you think that right now is the right time to return to the NWSL?
So many things. I think, first when I've heard the team come about, it was a bit of a shock. I didn't actually think it was real life. And, I told myself, obviously, like that's somewhere I would want to end up, but I want to make sure that it's the right career move for me. And I don't want it to, because it's Denver, like I go back there. Like I wanted to make sure everything like aligned with what I believed in. And so the more and more I saw and heard and spoke to ownership group and Kurt, and then furthermore with Nick, I was like, this just does seem right for me, because then you bring in all of the, the family side, the playing at home, and you're just like, yeah, everything kind of just seems right. And then you look at my career, and I've been overseas for almost 8 years altogether, with the PhD time in Lyon. I've put so much of my career over here. Everything seems right to, after the season to come home and play.
And you mentioned the end of the season. So why was it important for you to kind of finish out the rest of the year with Lyon before you make the move to Denver?
Thank you for asking that. I do think it's really important to highlight it, because I'm very grateful that Denver allowed that, because, they could have said, ciao, we'll go elsewhere. But I do really respect that, because I think they see, who I am as a player and a person. I want to finish out here on a strong note and help my team as much as possible go and win the 4 titles that we could possibly win. And that's just kind of my personality, is I never want to, end something early. And this is just really important to me, and everything Leon has given me as well. And they've been so gracious with this whole deal and whatnot. So I made that a point from the very get-go, is that I want to stay in Lyon till the end of my season here.
I spoke with Kurt yesterday, and he mentioned the first time he met you was kind of at a women's national team game in Denver. Do you remember that moment and kind of what was going through your head when, I know the conversation of coming wasn't yet brought up, but like, what was that moment like for you?
It was really cool. I think, Kurt is just like the nicest guy. So I went down there because I was in a suite just above watching the team play. And I was like, yeah, I'll come by and say hi. And I think, you want to be around good people first and foremost. And, listening to him, listen to, his goals and dreams for Denver Summit. And then him bringing out Rob and introduced me. I felt like I knew Rob from somewhere, but like what a great guy, and everything that he's doing, investing in me as well, and being very patient with me, waiting till May or June. That's something that really spoke loudly to me, and I was very grateful for that moment. So I'm like, oh, these are really good people, and they are doing the right things and wanting the right things, and they were very respectful of me, my time, and what I'm doing here at Lyon.
And One of the biggest conversations this offseason in the NWSL has been this conversation about this hip rule and things that the league could do to maybe attract players or compete better with European clubs. I'm curious what your thoughts are, one, on the hip rule, and maybe if the league, there's more things they could do to attract more players or compete with those clubs in Europe, but also how you feel potentially being one of the first players that could utilize that rule.
The hip is very interesting because the criteria is a little, no offense, a little all over the place for me. I think we're going in the right direction, like having the conversation, because I do think if you want to keep some of the top players or you want to attract some of the top players, obviously something has to change because you need to be able to pay them and to compete with contracts that are overseas as well. And again, like it's not negative, it's not positive. I think we are talking about it, and there's more and more investment in the NWSL. So I think that that is important, but something does have to change. And obviously, like my only alternative view is like seeing what the MLS does with three DPs on a team, and does that work in the NWSL? I don't know the answer. Like I don't know any of these answers, but I do think like whether it's raising the salary cap, whether it's raising something, whether it's tightening the criteria, the hit player. I mean, the hit player sounds like it could just be a DP, and I don't really understand the criteria, to be honest. The conversations will probably be ongoing if we want to trend in the right way.
And what have the conversations been like about your role at Denver Summit? Kind of what do you anticipate your role being, and kind of what has been the messaging, from Nick and from Kurt?
That will probably be more to come. I think again they've been really respectful that I'm still mid-season with Leon right now, and I don't think they want to push too much and distract much. But I think I hope I made it pretty clear to Nick that I want to be a leader in that team, and I want to help in every possible way I can, even from afar. Like I don't want to lose focus of what I'm doing right now, but that he can call or text me at any given time if I can help and help the team in the right way, from the get-go.
Yeah. How do you feel, coming home, having that opportunity? How's your family feel? What is this moment like for you?
It will probably be more real once it actually happens. It's a bit strange right now just because I'm still here and I'm very focused on what I'm doing here, but obviously getting a taste of it when I was home for Christmas and thinking about what it will be like and surprising my parents with the news was really special for me. And obviously being closer to my husband is a huge bonus. And I'm very happy that my parents can just drive to the game and they don't have to take a 15-hour day to travel to Lyon to watch me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
And now I'm joined by Melanie Anzidei, who you just heard talking to Lindsay Heaps. Melanie, first and foremost, how are you? Happy Lindsay Heaps signing with Denver Week.
Happy Lindsay Heaps announcement day. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm great. It's been a wonderful Monday. We'll be catching Melanie on Monday right after the Lindsay Heaps announcement. And her story's gone live on The Athletic. But Melanie, let's start with your piece and you sit down. You sat down one-on-one with Lindsay. How was that? And then maybe once you talk me through that, we'll get into the analyzing the news from a football journalist point of view.
It was good. I mean, she was very excited to be coming home to be with family. But also, and we'll get into it, it wasn't just about Denver. She wanted to take the Denver out of it, so to speak. But it was very interesting to hear from her perspective kind of what everyone has been talking about for a long time, which is essentially that she is the perfect signing, the perfect fit, the missing piece of the puzzle, however cliche way you want to put it. But that seems to be kind of, I guess, the theme with all of these conversations for sure.
Do you think, sticking with Lindsay and kind of what you were able to get from her, what did you sense did you get this signing means for her from a personal point of view? She is the captain of the US Women's National Team right now. She is going to her hometown club, the first time a women's professional sports team, or at least soccer and basketball, in the city of Denver. Like, there's got to be a component that this was such a big personal move. Did she tell you sort of what that meant?
I mean, she didn't want to tease too much. I got the sense of that because I don't know if you saw that Denver released a really emotional video of her telling her. Yeah,
because they were kind of leaning in, right? And they had the maps and they had the sense that she played on the small stadiums and now she's going to play on the big stadiums.
When you play soccer, right, no matter how old you are, no matter how high you play, you always have, or I had my parents, who would come to my games, those things. So I kind of connected with her in that way about, we're all a little bit of Lindsay Heaps in that way where, you want to be close to friends, you want to be close to family. And, she did talk about it. The first thing I said why was this the right move? She kind of spoke about how she's been gone for so long, a collective 8 years, obviously 2 separate instances with PSG and then with Lyon. But imagine being so far away from home for that long, and then especially watching from afar kind of the NWSL develop in the way that it has. The last time she was here was with the Portland Thorns. The NWSL was in a very different place. This is a very well thought out decision that was months in the making, lots of conversations with lots of different people. And I know at today's press conference, she talked about talking with Emma Hayes, a lot of moving parts to this, and kind of all reached the same conclusion that she's bringing with her a lot of experience, and also not just Denver, but NWSL, talking about this bigger picture thing, what this means for her career, but also what this means for kind of women's soccer here in the United States.
Yeah, it feels like a lot on her shoulders while we stick with that sort of emotional, personal component, right? I think this is straight out of the Angel City, San Diego Wave playbook. When they arrived in the NWSL, they went out and got Kristen Press for Angel City, hometown hero, one of the biggest names on the national team, Alex Morgan. And it feels like Denver have gone out and done their version. They maybe could have gone for Swanson, could have gone to Sophia Wilson. There's been a lot of talk about, those players who were very well taken care of at their respective clubs, Chicago and Portland. So with Lindsay's contract expiring in July, maybe that was the player Denver felt they could get to have that sort of local impact. How do you find that kind of move when you're an expansion team and you're coming in and you're trying to make an impact in the NWSL, but maybe your star player, your franchise player, the person who's going to be on all the tickets and all the posters, she's going to miss half the season? Do you think that's a risk that's, people should be willing to make for someone like Lindsay Heaps or anyone?
It's interesting because she did say, and she emphasized in our conversation, how in her conversations with Denver, one of the very first things that she was very adamant about was, I need to finish my season here. I want to finish what I started. She said, this is the kind of person I am. She's very competitive. She doesn't want to leave something unfinished. She did say that even though she is from afar, she does plan to be a leader from the team, even if it is,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Nick texting her, and Nick Cushing, the incoming head coach, she said, you can always text me, you can always talk to me. As we know, has good friends on the team with Janine, Janine Sanas, someone who she grew up playing with in Denver.
Another Colorado name too.
It's kind of nice, I would say, as a player to know that you do have a player like Lindsay coming in. I see it as a Jaden Shaw, the trade of the season for Gotham, helping them when they needed it most. So I think maybe in a way it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise that they are able to kind of figure themselves out without Lindsay, and then her to come in and kind of, I would hope, take them to that next level. It's interesting. It's not conventional. And also, I guess the side of it is maybe the deals financially, if you're going to get someone mid-contract, maybe it makes more sense for them to finish where they are instead of having to maybe negotiate more money in a different way. So I think that is something, like you mentioned, her being out of contract when she is soon, at the end of her contract and coming then, I think it also makes financial sense for the club.
Yeah, Denver can put more money on her wages and less money on a transfer fee. Yeah. I think when you talk about trying to move a player like Alyssa Thompson or Jaden Shaw, Gotham or Chelsea had to pay up big fees to move those players around. So I think when you've got Lindsay Heaps available on a free, you try and everything to try and make that happen when you can, which in this case is going to be the 1st of July, 2026. Lindsay really wanted to make sure everyone knew in the press conference on Monday that the summit part of this was why she's here. But what do you think were the things that sold the summit to her? Because that is a big leap. It's a 3.5-year contract. This is the last probably big contract of her career. She's 31. She's going to be earning the most amount she's probably ever earned in her career, as maybe she comes off another French title in Champions League. This is kind of the pinnacle of where it is for Lindsay Heaps. To then promise her future to a brand new expansion club where we have no idea what they're going to be. I think that is a big risk, but at least up front, she wanted to let everyone know that she is bought in on the club. So what did you see from her comments about how bought in she is on the summit, and what do you make of kind of what the summit has to offer her?
I think it speaks to the investment in these expansion teams. I feel like they're a little bit more not to say that other teams in the past hadn't been as solid, but I feel like the level of investor, the level of owner, the types of people that are coming in for these teams, I think that's something that she was paying close attention to. You know, she mentioned how the first time she found out that this was coming about, that, you know, NWSL was giving an expansion team to Denver, you know, she knew in the back of her head, this is something where I eventually want to end up. She didn't know when, but she knew that that was something that was going to be on her radar. And I do think that Rob Cohen is also someone who has kind of delivered on a lot of the promises he's made. And I'm sure that Lindsay and other players are kind of paying attention to that.
I can't help but feel like, again, everything you're talking about, a lot of the alignment she talks about is on the non-sporting side.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, am I being harsh? Like, I just feel like we haven't seen a ball kicked. We haven't really seen what kind of roster Kurt Johnson can really put together yet. We don't know what Nick Cushing is going to be like as an NWSL coach. No NWSL experience. Am I crazy? Does it seem like a bit of a risk to trust, hypothetically, the next 3.5 years of your career to a team where no one knows what they're doing?
Yes, I think so. But also having a team that commits to you for that long,
right,
at a very crucial time of her career, right? Because she's also going to be competing for, you know, the Olympics,
yes,
the World Cup. Those are a very critical time of her career. So, and, you know, like you said, you know, at 31 years old, those are probably the final times you're going to be like,
absolutely.
That's going to, you know, so I think being able to be in a place that's comfortable, you know, literally being physically in a location that you're familiar with. You know, she just got married to Tamerra Heaps, who is going to be close by in San Diego compared to, you know, being abroad. So like, she mentioned having her family having to do 15-hour travel days to go see her play. Yeah.
And that's true. Like, you don't know the personal boost you might get from being closer to your partner or being closer to your family. That might improve you as a player, right? I just wonder, the kind of pessimist in me, or the realist, let's call it a realist in me, looks at Angel City, looks at San Diego. San Diego had, you know, a couple of very strong seasons under Casey Stoney. They did win the Shield in 2022. But mostly, Melanie, we just see franchises KC took about 5 years to get to where they are now. The idea that Lindsay Heaps could take 3-4 years to be a title contender is just an interesting moment when you're trying to retain your place in the US Women's National Team, trying to win the final medals of your career. I just think it's a really interesting move to go from a sporting side, because going back to Press and Morgan, who did do the same things, to be fair, Heaps is almost just like a little bit younger than those two, and it just makes me think kind of, you know, what if?
I mean, every time someone talks about Lindsay, is like the passion they see in her, you know, either her parents saying in her as a kid, you know, Kurt Johnson saying it the first time he met her, just the passion she has for the city. So maybe it's like a stubbornness about her that she thinks she can handle this. And, you know, she did say she spoke with Emma Hayes about what this decision would mean for her at this stage of her career, you know, and what she could bring to the NWSL from not just Denver Summit, but just, you know, bring someone with that kind of experience into the league. And I'm sure we'll get into it, you know. It's very telling that someone like Lindsay, someone who has left American soccer for so long, is choosing to come back at a time when her national team coach doesn't necessarily require her to come back. Not, you know, the conversation about, you know, she has been honest about in 2016 when she had to play. She came back to the NWSL because she wanted to be on the U.S. Olympic roster. Like, that was something she's made very clear and repeated. But now the symbolism of her coming back, knowing when you have all these other players who are going to Europe, you know. So it is a very interesting. I do understand the skepticism of, you know, this is an expansion team. We don't know what's going to happen. But I do think maybe Lindsay Heaps is the stubborn leader that a team like that needs to kind of get through it the first season.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating to watch. It's so wonderfully poised, and it's going to be a nice little funny kind of summer moment. We're all going to be waiting around for that July when she arrives. It's sort of a second beginning of the season for Denver, a second beginning for that franchise. Yeah, San Diego Wave were the first franchise team ever to make the playoffs in their inaugural season. Bay FC followed up in 2024, becoming the second. So, you know, it's not easy out there for the new club, the expansion teams, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Denver. Melanie, thank you so much for all your fine work this week on Lindsay Heaps' watch. Anything else before we get out of here?
I'm just very excited to see what happens,
Oh, yeah.
to be determined, especially, with that hip roll and what that means.
Oh, we didn't even get into that. Oh, cool. Before we get out of here, let's talk a
Yeah.
little hip rule. So what did we learn about Lindsay's 3.5-year contract and whether or not it'll be a hip rule player?
Well, when I spoke with Kurt Johnson, the general manager of the club, he mentioned how they intend for her to be a hip player. Obviously, that's some nuances to that is they have to max out the salary cap before they are able to use the hip fees, so to speak, or the fees that are used for a player designated as a hip player. And of course, since she isn't coming till July, June, July, I'm sure there's a lot, and that doesn't kick in according to the NWSL press release. What we do know about the hip rule is that it's in effect July 1st. So a lot of moving parts. She has potential to be one of the first players brought in through this rule, which I think would be a major PR win for the league. A player who has been so vocal about all the changes that the league needs to do. But again, like we said, it's a very, very moving target, a lot of moving parts. We'll see what happens because this could very well, it depends on what other players are brought in. But Kurt did say it is good to have a mechanism like this in place to bring in the next Lindsay Heaps, the next major signing. So I'm going to be paying attention to that because I have so many questions that are still no answers to it.
Great tease. Yeah, just as we'll be paying attention to when Lindsay Heaps arrives, we're going to be paying attention to Denver as they maybe activate Heaps as a hip player or bring in more hip players. So crucial part of this story, 3.5-year contract for Lindsay Heaps. For now, not a high impact player, but time will tell if Denver Summit activates that. Melanie, thank you so much for your hard work. Now, just a quick change of pace here, sending it over to Tamerra Griffin and Angel City sporting director Mark Parsons to get into all Angel City's off-season transfer business, their new signings, Brazilian free agent Ari Borges, Emily Sams, the blockbuster signing from Orlando Pride. They get into all of that exclusive conversation with Mark Parsons. Here you go.
I have warned so many of you that the offseason was going to come fast and furious, and I am proven correct. I am joined by Angel City FC sporting director Mark Parsons to walk me through a very unique, very explosive. I feel like those emojis, Mark, sort of teasing these 5 signings that you've announced this week have had like the social media realm of the NWSL in a chokehold. And so I'm really excited to talk to you. Happy New Year, first of all. And how are you doing?
Happy New Year. I'm doing great. And it's a funny starting point for this conversation. I messaged social media team yesterday and said, hey, great job. I've had everyone from my daughter to other GMs trying to crack the code. And no one's got close yet. So, I wish that me and Alex could take credit for the social media genius, and I'm glad it worked out.
I can only imagine. Yeah, I was curious. I mean, I learned a lot about emojis and what they are and what sorts of college teams use what. It looks like candy, but this is actually the Seminoles, known emoji. Did you learn sort of about like the full emoji palette through this announcement? Because I know I did.
Yes, someone explained the Florida State connection. Someone had to walk me through that, and it's been fun, and I love the creativity, and I hope the players are enjoying it, right?
Yeah, emojis are fun, but knowing what I know about you, Mark, I'm sure it's a lot more fun to dig into the details of these 5 player signings, how they came about, how you see them fitting into the bigger fabric of Angel City, what you've been building as we head into the 2026 season. So I'm wondering if we can sort of go down the list in chronological order of these signings and just give us a little bit of background, what you're able to share about how you identified Ari Borges, for example, and how you see her fitting. She, of course, was the first announcement of this 5, Brazilian international coming over from Racing Louisville. I don't know about you, Mark, but for me, Ari has always been that player that is, even as exciting as she has already displayed herself to be, there's always been that question in the back of my mind about how much better can she be. And so I'm curious if that sort of resonated with you and how you and Alex sort of arrived at approaching her with this offer for Angel City.
With Ari, we actually started in the late summer. It wasn't an option, and for her club, and we pushed. And profile wise, the mentality, the edge that she has, the competitiveness that she has, we really feel that we had to add that to our roster. This ball playing midfielder who just wants the ball and wants to dictate play, but also gets up and down and wants to score, but also loves defending. And while this one took maybe 6 months, in theory, we got there, and we're super excited for her to turn up, not just on the field, the qualities, but we really feel this mentality monster we need in our group. And we have 1 or 2, but I think you need to get to 4 or 5 of the people that really match the energy and the passion of your coach and want to do whatever it takes in any moment to find a way to win. And really glad that we'll be playing with her. We want to fight for trophies. We want to compete with the best teams in this league. And we had a lot of work to do to be able to be in the position where we are now to take a big step forward.
Yeah, it seems also that Ari sort of sits at this really crucial intersection of having a lot of NWSL experience while also being very young. And when I think about the next 3 players in this sort of advent calendar of announcements that you guys have had this week, 3 players who are coming from college in Carson, Karina, and Taylor Suarez. And I'm thinking about the presence that Ari can have as she sort of transitions into maybe a little bit more of a leadership role than when she's had in the past, given that she now has so many seasons under her belt. But Mark, you have had recruitment conversations with collegiate players before and after the abolition of the NWSL draft. So I'm curious how those conversations have changed in this post-draft era, and what you're most excited about when it comes to Carson, Karina, and Taylor, who are coming respectively from Louisville, Duke, and FSU.
Yeah, first of all, these 3 players, while they are young and while they need time, and while it's smart of me to send the message of building patience of everyone's expectations, we think unbelievably high of all 3, and I'll get into the why. They were very early in the fall season. They were absolutely critical for us to understand their situation and if there was a possibility. 2 of them we knew were going to come out of college 100%. Taylor, we're never going to know until the season had finished. And critical players and profiles and people that we wanted to add. I'll start with Carson briefly. Is that the staff saw her live. I flew in late after we were playing away at Louisville. The staff went and saw her and heard a little bit about her and saw her live. And I landed at 10:11, and Alex was waiting for me with a laptop, and he had 5 games worth of clips that we had to talk about Carson Cherry. And this was someone that we feel has the physical, has the technical, but also has the maturity to take a step into the NWSL. A ball-playing centre-back who wants to break lines, split lines, but also defensively is pretty outrageous in being a Becky Sauerbrunn type of defender who puts her body in front of everything. But also I think of a player we're going to talk about later in being a very Emily Sams, I think is one of the best 1v1 defenders we've seen, and Carson really surprised us when we got into the weeds of looking at 1v1 defending. And something that I said when we were looking at Carson was, I can't find a problem here, guys. I feel really positive that this is a player that suits what we and Alex and everyone wants right now. And we put her unbelievably high. While she was someone that I don't think other people were necessarily talking or thinking about, we put her so high, and we put everything into making sure. Actually, Willow Bay joined the call for Carson Cherry to make sure that we moved the needle a little bit, and we're very excited for her to join. Karina is the best footballing brain that we saw in the number 6 or number 8 in college. If you slow down and just watch Karina, the chaos suddenly becomes a bit more organized. If you just watch her brain and how she positions and receives and sets people up to succeed. Yeah, we brought in a coach who wants to play dominant football, that wants to play a brand that keeps everyone on the edge of their seats in LA and in our home stadium. And you need intelligent footballers. Karina was someone that we had to get. And I was, again, a little bit over relentless there in being impatient and calling the people I needed to every day to see if we could move the needle here, and really excited that we got it over the line. And I think she's going to be a great fit for our community, our team, our club, but also Alex and how he plays. And then with Taylor, a really good principle is we had at the beginning we said we cannot put too much energy into here. We think she's been one of the best players in college this full season on a team that obviously in the end ended up winning it. For someone who's only a sophomore, every time we watched Florida State, she was a standout player for both teams, and it was rare to see this type of dominance from a inverted winger, number 10 or winger, however people see where she plays. We got the call, everything was ready. We pounced, and we delivered what we believed, why she would fit Angel City and why we think we can be a stage for her development, and it's worked out really well there. These three are three players that can have a big impact now. However, we've just changed. We feel we've transformed the future of our club with these three young additions. We gave more playing minutes to under 23s than anyone else in the league last year, and I think in the history of the NWSL, we've proven that we're committed to playing the players that have earned it or deserve it. And Sam did that while he was interim, and Alex has done that since he got here. We're clear on culture that what you do is important every day, and if you should be playing and you fit what's needed, the staff are going to play you regardless of your age. That obviously helps in recruitment when you are sharing with top young talents that, look, Alex come from Bayern Munich, he's been working with the best players in the world, he's turned up, and Kennedy Fuller was someone who made 21 starts out of 26 games as an 18-year-old. So if you have earned the right to play, you're going to play here. And I'm sure that helped, but to also be clear on, I know we've got one more to talk about, but throughout this process, to have a head coach who wants to be in the recruitment process and will be on the calls and will be very clear and open with the vision, also makes it easier. And I think we got something really special here with Alex and how he sees football and his passion for helping every individual he works with. And yeah, it's paid off in getting the four we talked about so far, getting 4 top targets who we put so much energy in and making sure that they chose LA.
I want to ask about the sort of working relationship between you and Alex as someone like you who has a wealth of experience in this league, working with someone who is coming in and is now able to enjoy his first full season. But let's bookmark that because we obviously need to talk about Emily Sams. This one, I think, at least in my group chats, in terms of the emoji and the player, was where people were the most lost. And I think part of it is because no one had really broached the possibility of Emily Sams leaving Orlando. And if she had, I don't think anyone necessarily saw Angel City on the radar as far as her destination. But to your point earlier about changing the sort of fabric and future of this club, this is such a surprising signing. It's such a statement signing. Just hearing you talk about the defenders and center back specifically who have come through Angel City and are still with the club, veterans even like Sarah Gordon, this is a club that really values this position. So I want to know everything about what went into this. This is major.
Yeah, transformational. I love the word statement signing. We see Emily as the quarterback of what he's building here. Having a ball-playing centre-back who understands how to dictate build up, to slow the game down, to speed the game up in possession, to understand whether the opponent's pressing 1 or 2 with 3 and where the space is and read that and support her teammates. The brain in build-up, the quarterback in build-up. We had to find that player, and there's no one in the world that we wanted more to play this role than Emily Sams. We wanted to invest the money, the time, the energy into a player that was a perfect fit. So we see a quarterback who can help the build up and improve the way this team will dominate with the ball. However, I also see one of the best defenders in the league who loves defending, 1v1 defending, controlling, manipulating the opponent, the attacker in those key moments, how to defend a box, how to communicate. She is incredibly underrated. I think she has been undervalued previously. Not by Orlando, I'm talking about everyone and anywhere, and including the media. We believe she is one of the very best ball-playing centre-backs who also has some of the best defensive qualities. But the human being, the humility, the work ethic, the personality, is exactly what we want and need. When we talked about Ari, edge, fighter, competitor, Emily Sams is someone who's going to be more balanced, but she has that if she needs to. She also can come all the way down if she needs to. She's someone who you can build a franchise around, and we're very pumped to be able to bring her in. And yeah, some of the players have started arriving because they can turn up and have optional work and stuff like that. We don't kick off for another couple of weeks. She arrived 2 or 3 days before we even started the optional work and was asking if the building could be open for her. And I looked at Alex and said, this is a nice problem. Someone's trying to break the doors down to get to work. So transformational, big statement, really happy. Welcome her and her husband to the LA community. And she's not going to just help with her own performance, a bit like Becky Sauerbrunn. I think she's going to have a transformational impact on her teammates and staff, and looking forward to seeing her develop into a key role here.
Emily Sams has been a guest on this podcast, and just based on the brief conversation I had with her, I can completely see her being willing to maybe not break down the doors, but ask for the doors to be opened to start training early. She has what we call that dog in her, I think, as a defender. As we're going into 2027, a lot of pressure on Brazil, a lot of pressure on the US for very different reasons. And I'm thinking about what these moves for these two players specifically to Angel City at this time in Angel City's development and growth as a club could do for them. And then I'm panning out even further and looking at what this collective announcement of signings this week means for Angel City as a club. We've been talking about statements, but what do you hope is the takeaway from people who support this club, people who've been watching it, with these 5 names that are now Angel City players, Mark?
Yeah, great question. Willow Bay and Bob Iger took over October 2024. They said we're going to put in the priority was to put in a world-class performance center. Spent millions, had it up and running in 2 to 3 months. So 2025, we spent millions on facilities. But to be able to make good decisions, to be able to do good scouting and recruitment, you need to invest in sporting structure. And Willow and Bob have absolutely pushed the standards more than I've ever seen in supporting the sporting build out. We'll announce a lot of new hires here in the next couple of weeks across all departments. I'm grateful and thankful that I'm at a club like Angel City, where the investment to give the players the best professional and world-class experience is a high or the highest priority of Willow and Bob and Julie and everyone else. But also, it's in our DNA. It's in Alex. It's why we hired him. He's been a winner. He's competed for trophies on the biggest stage, but he develops players. He develops teams. And it's also the staff we've hired. It's in my DNA, whether it's Olivia Moultrie or Ellie Carpenter or Sophia Wilson or whoever else, or Becky Sauerbrunn, Christine Sinclair, Tobin Heath, wherever Alex has been, wherever I have been, investing in the person, investing in the player, making sure that you support the development of people within the team environment is core and key to us believing that we can get closer to what we think is a top 4 teams in this league and can start competing for trophies. But not only investing in individuals helps you win, investing in individuals keeps them. It retains talent. Investing in individuals helps you recruit talent. So yeah, financially, I'm really grateful to be where I am. But we have a sporting department, we have a club full of people who want to help, support, push, and get the best. And then you could say for all of them, but let's zoom into Emily and Ari. If I'm in their shoes, who they've been playing really well and doing a great job, and they need to move the needle again, I want to play for Alex Strauss. I want to play in a team that suits a coach and a team that's going to suit my strengths and wants to build around me and my qualities and things that I love to do, and have a head coach who sees football the same way. Yeah, to all that, like you asked your question, to LA fans and are incredibly patient and committed fans, and something that we shared with all players: the best place to compete and fight for 3 points every week at BMO Stadium. To our fans, I'd say thank you for your patience so far. We're not just trying to be a tourist and get close to a playoff and then be out in a week or two. We're trying to get to the top and stay at the top. And here we are with these new additions. It's been a lot of great work from everyone in the last 12 months, and now we're excited to have a positive start to preseason and get everyone going in the right direction and playing the football that Alex Alex has oozing out of his veins every day, which is the football we want here at Angel City.
And I can appreciate the mandate to continue growing, to continue improving in a league that is expanding, because heading into this season now there are 2 more opponents that you didn't even have to worry about last season. So many moving parts. There's the narrative of this still very young club, internally versus externally, the departures from this past season, but also, as we've just discussed, the introductions of some really exciting players at very different points in their careers. And I think for me, still with Angel City, the theme has been change and evolution that I really think is critical in a league like this, that itself is always evolving and changing. So really appreciate, as always, Mark, your insights. It's great to hear some background and context on these players, those with which our listeners have been familiar, those that they are probably going to become even more familiar with very quickly once even preseason starts before the regular season. So we appreciate you joining us. We're glad that you were able to do all of this work and still enjoy your holiday break, because I feel like we're going to sneeze and preseason is going to be upon us.
It's funny you say that, because 23rd of December, text Alex and reminded him of his wish list, and the top 5 were all ticked off, and said, hey, this was nice, we could enjoy Christmas. And then a few hours we started again. So we're very happy with the last few months, but we all know we got to keep moving. So we want to have a good start to preseason, but of course there is always room to keep improving and growing. And then we have a summer and winter window coming up, and we got to keep our eyes on making sure we complement this talent and keep pushing Angel City to a place where we believe we deserve to be. But also a great phrase that's been in the off season is that Alex has said a few times: we have a responsibility to fulfill the potential of this club, and we're working very hard every day to do that.
Great way to end. Thanks again for joining us, Mark, and enjoy the rest of the preseason, I guess we can call it. I'm sure it'll just be a matter of time before we're chatting again.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for having me.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for hanging out today on this episode of Full Time. If you have any questions, you want to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. You can always email us, fulltime@theathletic.com, or shoot us a DM over on our Instagram, TikTok. That's @TAFulltime. @TAFulltime. Go give us a follow. Subscribe to the pod wherever you get your podcasts. We would love a review. If you're enjoying the show, give us 5 stars. Let us know how you feel about it. Write something funny. Maybe we'll read it on the show. You never know. Also, did you know The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free best-in-class coverage of women's sports? Yes, go check out the Women's Sports Hub at Yahoo. Go check out the Women's Sports Hub, sports.yahoo.com/women's-sports. I have been producer Theo, your host for today. Thanks so much to Lindsey Heaps, Melanie Anzidei, Tamerra Griffin, Mark Parsons, all for joining us on a really amazing episode of Full Time. So thank you all so much. Thank you, listener, for being here and giving us your ears and giving us your time. What an honor. We had so much fun. There is absolutely no way that the Full Time pod could happen without podcast video producer Leah Griffin or executive producer Emily Olsen. We'll see you next time.